Matthew Stafford and Trevor Lawrence, two guys in the NFL right now who are at very different positions in their career. Matthew Stafford is leading an LA Rams team possibly to a playoff run that could lead them to a Super Bowl win. And Trevor Lawrence is playing football for a Jacksonville Jaguars team who has won 2 games so far in this NFL season and is looking like they're going to probably have another top 3 pick at the end of this season. Now let's compare the two guys, though, at each level of their career. You look at the high school level. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is the number 6 overall recruit in 24/7 sports history. You look at Matthew Stafford. I think a lot of people were saying that Matthew Stafford could play or could be the number 1 pick coming out of high school. That's how good he was touted as in terms of his high school ranking. Now, compare their college career. Trevor Lawrence has football championships at the NCAA level. He has multiple bowl game wins, same as Matthew Stafford. He had 3 straight bowl game wins, and this was before the FCS or before the FBS playoff committee was formed, and this was before a lot of the things were done in person instead of by a computer. And however, he still had an elite career. 3 straight bowl game wins, 3 straight seasons where he was considered one of, if not the best quarterbacks at the college quarterback position. And basically the exact same kind of career that Trevor Lawrence had. And because of the success that both of those guys had, they became the number 1 overall picks. Even compare the 2 teams that those two went to. I would say that the Detroit Lions are basically the NFC version of the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2 teams who... The Detroit Lions were 0-16 the year before they drafted Matthew Stafford. The Jacksonville Jaguars were 1-15 the year before they drafted Trevor Lawrence. 2 teams who, at the given moment that they drafted their respective guy, the Detroit Lions had 1 household name on their team, and that was Calvin Johnson at 24 years old. The Jacksonville Jaguars, however, don't have a single guy who is a household name, besides maybe James Robinson. I think a lot of people who pay attention to football, or at least pay attention to fantasy football, know who James Robinson is. They know how effective he was last year as a rookie running back who I believe was undrafted, and he is maybe the most elite guy on that team. Now, here's the overall point, is I want to establish the fact that I think that Trevor Lawrence is Matthew Stafford 2.0. And I also want to establish the fact that that is a really bad prospect for the Jacksonville Jaguars to have, because look at the career that Matthew Stafford had before he was traded to the LA Rams. 0 playoff wins, I believe, 2 playoff appearances. All Matthew Stafford really was in his time in Detroit was a stat-padding elite quarterback. And not only that, he was a guy who just wasn't given the kind of respect that he probably deserved in his 12-year career as a Detroit Lions quarterback. He went to 1 Pro Bowl as the Lions quarterback. I think a lot of people don't really realize that. Because of the fact that he did not win, because of the fact that he was on the Detroit Lions, he did not get any sort of respect unless he was putting up absolute video game numbers, which, I mean, to his credit, he was doing basically every single season, putting up incredible numbers as the Detroit Lions quarterback. But again, he made 1 Pro Bowl. He had 3 years where he went to the playoffs, and he had 0 wins. And because of that, he was not given respect as a quarterback in the NFL. I really see that being a possibility as Trevor Lawrence goes into his career with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like I said, the 2 teams are basically the exact same when you talk about the incompetence that they have had in the past 10 to 15 seasons as an NFL franchise. Yes, the Detroit Lions have made the playoffs a few years while Matthew Stafford was the quarterback. If that's all the Jacksonville Jaguars get out of Trevor Lawrence, then that is a failure. The Detroit Lions failed around Matthew Stafford. And again, like I just said, if the Jacksonville Jaguars get 3 playoff appearances in 12 years out of Trevor Lawrence, that is a complete failure on their end as a franchise. And let's be real, there's nobody that's on this team right now who has a chance of changing the fortunes in terms of Trevor Lawrence being Matthew Stafford 2.0. Because, like I said, there's nobody that's a household name outside of James Robinson, and a lot of people probably know who Laviska Shenault is, but, it's not like you're going to go around seeing Shenault jerseys in, Florida. You're not going to see that. You're going to see Brady jerseys. You're going to see Tampa Bay Buccaneer jerseys. The Jacksonville Jaguars don't have respect right now, much like the Detroit Lions did not have respect when they drafted Matthew Stafford. Now, getting back to the comparison between the two, there's a really good chance that Trevor Lawrence ends up with the same amount of wins that the Detroit Lions had in 2009 when they drafted Matthew Stafford. The Lions went 2-14. It was a season where Matthew Stafford ended up missing, I believe, 5 games due to an injury. And right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars are sitting at 2-10. Yes, they could beat the Texans. Yes, they could beat the New York Jets. But I think even if they go 4-13, that's not really that far removed from a 2-14 season that the Detroit Lions had the first season with Matthew Stafford. And the thing is, Trevor Lawrence, I don't think is going to have as long of a leash as Matthew Stafford had in Detroit, because this isn't 2011. This isn't 2010, 2009, where social media was at its peak yet. This is an age where if Trevor Lawrence does not go to the playoffs, does not lead the Jacksonville Jaguars to a winning record in his first 2 or 3 seasons, look at what's happening to quarterbacks in the NFL right now. If you do not win in your first 2 or 3 seasons, you're getting ousted by your fans, you're going to get shipped off by your team, and you're not going to have respect anywhere you go because you're going to be looked at as a quarterback who can't get it done. Look at Baker Mayfield right now. He's the quarterback who led the Cleveland Browns to their first playoff win in years. He led them to their most success that they have had in years. And because right now they're sitting at a 6-6 record, he's looked at as a guy who can't get it done, even though he just proved last year that he could get it done. He's in probably the toughest division in football, and he's being ousted by his fans. The team, there is a chance that Baker Mayfield plays for a different team next year. That's how quickly things change in the NFL due to the social media presence and due to this whole aura around the NFL where your quarterback has to win games every single year. I think the reason it really lasted so long with Matthew Stafford in Detroit is because he was playing for the Detroit Lions. He was looked at as the savior of the franchise. He was looked at as the guy who, even though everything was falling around him, he could get it done as an elite quarterback. I would say bringing the Detroit Lions to 3 playoff appearances in 12 years is a pretty big accomplishment for Matthew Stafford, because that team was terrible around him. Defensively, they were never right. Offensively, they never had a running back. They never had a guy outside of Calvin Johnson who could be an elite wide receiver. They never got a tight end. They never had an elite offensive line ever when Matthew Stafford was there. That's probably going to be the case with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. And he's probably not going to have the same head coach next year. And I don't necessarily know who's going to want to coach this team, because even though a lot of people probably were looking at this Trevor Lawrence situation as an elite opportunity to coach Trevor Lawrence in the NFL, I don't think guys really look at it like that, because even though the quarterback is the most important part, when you don't have an offensive line, when you don't have an elite skill group, when you don't have a good defense, when you don't have good culture around your team, when your owner has shown the consistency of trading players as soon as they gain elite status in the NFL. Look at Dante Fowler. Look at Jalen Ramsey. Look at Leonard Fournette. Look at anyone on this team who has been good in the past few years. Telvin Smith decided to walk away. He said, "No, I'm going to walk away." At the height of this team, this team has shown a very consistent pattern of getting rid of players who are at the peak of their capabilities. And that's not a very good prospect for any coach looking at this coaching opportunity. At the end of the day, I don't hope that Trevor Lawrence turns into Matthew Stafford 2.0, but there's a really good chance it happens because, like I said, Jacksonville is basically Detroit, the AFC version of Detroit Lions. It's not a team, when you compare it to other AFC franchises, when you compare it to the Chiefs, when you compare it to the Patriots, when you compare it to the Steelers, even when you compare it to the Ravens, when you compare it to the Titans, when you compare it to any team right now that is competing, Jacksonville has nothing over any of those franchises. They don't have history over any of the franchises. They don't have player development over any of the franchises. Personnel, coaching, ownership, they have nothing that is better than any franchise right now, possibly in the NFL. They have nothing. And that is something that is really rough for the Jacksonville Jaguars to look at. And that's really why I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be Matthew Stafford 2.0.